What's up, everybody? I hope you're having a great day, a great night. As always, you must be because you're hanging out with JBM Sports Media. We got Ben, we got Joe, and I'm Mike. We have a huge Major League Baseball move today. Unfortunately, I have to say that the New York Mets have traded away Brandon Nimmo to the Texas Rangers in exchange for Marcus Semien. I'm going to save my reaction and kind of how I've mulled this over the past couple hours, maybe till after these guys go ahead. So, by all means, fellas, lead us off. What are your initial reactions to this trade?
I guess I'll start off first. I was the one that broke it to Mike actually, because it popped up on my phone all of a sudden. I was trying to just check some regular NFL scores. I was shocked immediately because I knew that there was already conversations about Texas cutting some payroll, and I knew that maybe it was going to be either Seager, maybe it was going to be Semien. Turned out to be Semien, and I'm not gonna lie, I was shocked when I saw that Nimmo went back to the Rangers. I didn't know that the Mets' way was going to be improving the defense, maybe a little bit younger, or maybe just become a little bit more defensively founded. And I know Nimmo has kind of took a few steps back defensively. That's the truth. And it was just shocking. A true one-for-one swap. I don't know. I just felt like for the Mets more so looking at it from the Mets perspective, I was just a little bit confused. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they could have maybe got something more for Nimmo. Maybe that's crazy me saying that, but I do understand Marcus Semien is a great defender. I think he's obviously going to add defense into that team, into that infield. Obviously brings a lot of questions now heading into the Mets free agency. Bellinger, Tucker, do they maybe trade for a guy like Tatis? That's going to be something we'll talk about in this video. But I was completely shocked, if I could be honest. I'll throw it to JB, but I was shocked. Me personally, I was.
Yeah, I was shocked definitely because I wasn't shocked that he was actually traded per se. I was shocked that he wasn't traded for a pitcher. I thought maybe Nimmo would be dealt for an arm that the Mets could have utilized, whether it was in the pen or maybe a back end rotation type piece. That's where I thought they'd go with a guy like that. But after kind of like settling down for about a half hour to an hour after the trade, and you try to realize why the Mets did this, I kind of broke this down into three reasons why the Mets would do this. One, obviously, they see him as a defensive upgrade for their infield. Another reason, it obviously creates room in the left field spot. Like you said, bro, does this mean Tucker? Does it mean Bellinger? Does it mean somebody else, a big name via trade? And obviously, the third reason is that it aligns with what the Mets front office has been preaching, which is run prevention. So, if you're going to start with run prevention as a main key to your success, obviously defense is the number one way, obviously, behind good pitching. So the Mets have done a good job, obviously drafting some of these young guys. They do have question marks in the rotation, but to shore up the defense, obviously, is a good thing. So those are the three reasons, the positive reasons that I see why the Mets did this. But yeah, it's definitely, it does leave some question marks because this trade may not work if they don't get a guy like Tucker, if they don't get a guy like Bellinger, or, if they don't make a trade for some outfield help. So, to me, this trade does work if they do address left field, but, I guess time will tell.
Yeah, I think you both hit some pretty big key points. If I can, so not only obviously it was a 1-for-1 swap, the Mets also, to even out some money, they also sent Texas $5 million. So all in all, realistically, I had mentioned this in the video, the short that I made. Realistically, they get out of a little bit of length of a contract. They're going to pay a little more money up front, which it seems Cohen really doesn't have a problem with. But this frees up a couple of years because Nimmo was signed through 2030 and Semien's only signed through 2028. Like I said, they're going to spend a little extra to keep a guy like Semien. Now, Semien is a little older. He's 35 years old. Nimmo is in the middle of his prime. But like Bruce said earlier, his defense has been on the decline. Ever since the plantar fasciitis, he's taken a little bit of a step back. Semien, on the other hand, his bat has taken a bit of a step back. And for the first time in about, I think, 3 or 4 years, he didn't play a full 162 games. He did that a couple times over the last 5. So usually he is very durable. Now, he only played, I believe, in a $124. Realistically, if you look at his numbers, if you give him those extra 30 games, he falls in line with what he's done over the last maybe 2 or 3 years. We've seen the regression But if the regression is a 20 to 25 to 75 to 90 RBI type of guy, if he brings his average to around the 250 mark, that's generally where Nimmo was. I mean, the number swap offensively really isn't that much of a hit. They do upgrade big time defensively in the infield. Now, like Jay had said, this now opens up a spot in left field. Now, what does that mean? Do they go after Tucker? Do they go after Tatis? Do they go after Bellinger? Realistically, also to allude to what Jay said, they have been preaching run prevention and strengthening up the defense. So to me, now that you open up left field, that just means all signs point that they're going to go heavy for Cody Bellinger. A situation where if you bring back Pete Alonso, which is obviously in Met fans' world, mine as well, that's a number one priority. So what do you gain by keeping Nimmo and having Alonso? Your defense really doesn't do much. It doesn't get any better. If you bring in Bellinger, re-sign Alonso, and now you have Semien up the middle along with Lindor, your defense just got a hell of a lot better. And you could survive and live with what Alonso brings you at first base. Overall, as a fan, this hurts. I'm going to be honest. I think I'm speaking for most Met fans. Nimmo was a great Met. He really was. He's been with the organization throughout his entire career, drafted at 18 years old. I mean, I remember watching him play in Brooklyn when he first got drafted. So following this guy's career from start to now finish as a Met, I mean, who knows what the future holds. But as a fan, this does hurt. But overall, the Band-Aid's been ripped off, and now I'm looking at the wound. I understand it, at least. I get the logic of what they did.
I think that's obviously, for Mets fans, obviously, losing a guy like Nimmo. I mean, I can imagine he was a great clubhouse energy guy, brings a lot of good vibes. He obviously has been there his whole career with the organization. So that's tough. For the Rangers, I guess I'll talk about it for them a little bit. I like it for Texas. I really do. It adds another guy that you could pair up with Langford in the outfield. I do like that. I really do. Obviously, Garcia got non-tendered. So what's going to happen in right field? I don't know. But I do like this move for Texas. Like I said in the beginning of the video, there was rumors that they were going to try to cut some payroll. Obviously, this happened with the Semien contract. Will they spend a little bit more? Like maybe go after another hitter now that Garcia, who else? Jonah Heim also got non-tendered. Mm-hmm. Will they go after somebody? Maybe, potentially. I think it's very fascinating for them to do this move. For the Mets, I do think Marcus Semien, like you said, defensively, that's a massive upgrade to the infield, and I think that's going to be bringing great value defensively to that team. Regarding the Pete Alonso situation, I feel like this isn't really going to impact whether he resigns or doesn't. I don't feel like one correlates with the other, not to the extent that I feel like a lot of other people do believe so. I do believe, yes, it's still priority, but this isn't going to factor in whether he does resign or not. I feel like he's going to venture all the markets. Is the Mets' number one priority him or Diaz? 1A, 1B. I kind of see it like that. Diaz is extremely important, though, in that bullpen. I'll say that because now having Diaz is like, I don't know. We for sure get into several conversations after that, but I don't know. I like this move. Like, as soon as I break it down, I like it for both teams to an extent in its own way. It's just, to me, like you said, Marcus Semien's getting older. He's 35 now. Yes, he was injured. I think it was a foot injury at the end of this year. It was a foot injury, if I'm correct. Is it something that, might linger? Is he going to become a little bit more injury prone? Hopefully not. Is his average, I believe his average was at 230 or something like that?
231, 230.
Is that going to improve? Because if it doesn't, then that's a question mark. So that's just something I have in the back of my head as well. I'll throw it to Jay real quick. How do you think about it for the Rangers, Jay, this move, getting Nimmo?
Well, they're taking a little bit of risk. Obviously, they're taking on most of the money here for Nimmo's contract, obviously. But it is a left-handed power bat, that guy that can play defense. And like Rose said, when he's not banged up, which was very rare for Nimmo, he's out there. He's usually playing 150 games a year. So the Rangers are hoping on durability. And obviously he's back with DeGrom now, so they have a little bit of camaraderie there. So maybe that'll work in the clubhouse too. Maybe DeGrom can show him how they do things there a little bit. He'll get acclimated a little bit quicker. He knows somebody, right off the bat. So that's something to think about too. How he's going to, spend his time there in Texas. But listen, I think like I said, for the Mets, I think that Texas knows what they have, and it's just go out there and do what you got to do. But for the Mets, certain things have to happen right now. So we'll see what this trade to me has a question marks next to it, but it won't if certain things happen. Like I said.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think this is not just this is not your big move of the offseason for the Mets. I think this is just the first domino to fall. This sets the tone and sets the place for everything else they might be doing, of who they've been linked to, who they've been in on. And I mean, listen, we didn't see this trade coming. There was nothing other than rumors that Nimmo was available. There was nothing out there that the Mets were talking to Texas about Semien. None of that. This just came out of nowhere. So my two biggest things is one, how long were they in negotiation? How long did this take to get done? And my other thing is, because Brandon Nimmo had a full no trade clause, I would love to know. Now, I don't think I'll ever get this answer, but I really genuinely would love to know how long it took him to say, all right, you know what? I'm in. I'll accept the trade. I'll go to Texas. Because that had to be an extremely difficult decision for him. Like I said, he's been with this organization since he's 18 years old. I believe 2013 he was drafted. So that's just the fan in me, that the curiosity of that, where like, how long did it take him to mull that over and say, all right, you know what, like, I'm going to leave this organization behind, because that had to be an extremely difficult thing for him to do. If I can, a nod to Brandon Nimmo, like I mentioned earlier, he was a fantastic New York Met. I think he represented the organization phenomenally. He played hard every day. I mean, this is a guy that he's sprinting down the first base. You don't see things like that. He played the game very hard. When he was out on the field, it felt like you needed an army to take him off the field. It felt like he never wanted to come off. Very passionate about what he did. He was very passionate. It seemed like he loved the fan base, and loved being a part of the orange and blue. And as a Met fan, that is very refreshing to see a player like that, because I think they're a very rare commodity in this day and age. You don't see a guy like Brandon Nimmo. They don't come around too often. So, just the fan in me, I just a nod to him, and I just want to thank him for his time in the orange and blue, because he, like I said, he really did represent this team very well.
Yeah. I guess now you kind of think about it, like for the rest of the offseason, it's only going to start heating up now. I think Jay said it via our group text message. I mean, things are going to start picking up in the next 2 to 3 weeks, big time, I feel like. And this was a byproduct of, that's a big domino that happened all of a sudden. Nobody expected it. There wasn't no rumors. There wasn't nothing that this was building up. It was just one passing tweet just like that, and it happened. Do I feel like, and I guess I'll throw out the questions to you guys. Do you feel like any more Mets will be traded? Like maybe a McNeil, maybe like I don't know, maybe a Mauricio, somebody like that. Do you see like any more dominoes falling and kind of leaving the team, or no?
I'm not too sure, because you don't want to really carve into your depth. If you're not going to address certain things that you need, then it doesn't make sense. I don't know if. I would imagine if you trade a guy like Mauricio, it's going to be for pitching. To me, that's what the Mets need to address, I think, via trade. So we'll see. I mean, I guess nothing's off the table. If something makes sense and something is brought to the Mets, and the Mets say, "Hey, this makes sense for us," they may pull the trigger. So I don't think they've really done as of yet, because to me, them leaving left field open is just another chess piece that needs to be made. So. Everything is a strategic move to me. So I think once they address left field, maybe they're not done.
I want to be totally honest. I think this completely opens the door for everybody. I think outside of a select few, I think just about everybody's expendable. For the exception, obviously, of the McLeans and Lindor and Soto, and the obvious ones that aren't going anywhere. But as far as the Jeff McNeils, maybe the Brett Beatties, the Ronnie Mauricios, even the Brandon Sproats, yes, I absolutely believe. This was the biggest rip of the Band-Aid we were going to see via trade. This is the one that was going to sting the most for the Mets fans, because, like I said, Brandon Nimmo was beloved by the fan base. McNeil, I think this does open the door for a McNeil trade to be a throw-in piece, or maybe a straight up for a reliever. I think that does completely open the door now, because now with the addition of Semien, he's going to play second base. Listen, McNeil could slide over and left. Do we really want to do all that? Probably not. I think, again, they want to go defensive, so to upgrade at second and then to be maybe equal to and left, if you throw McNeil out there, it doesn't make sense to me. So I think McNeil just became extremely expendable. I thought he was going to get moved last offseason, and that didn't happen. So I think at this point in time, Nimmo and McNeil have, I think, played their last games in Queens.
That's a fair point. And it's like I said, the winter meetings are right around the corner. And obviously, we want you guys to let us know in the comments, what do you guys think about this trade? Let us know what was your initial reactions. I know I was shocked, like I said. I could only imagine when I told Mike, he was absolutely shocked. It's crazy, though, because there was no rumblings whatsoever. Just ripped the Band-Aid straight up. I wonder what's next. I really wonder what's next. I feel like with the silence of what happened with this trade, I feel like certain stuff are brewing kind of underneath, obviously behind closed doors. Not a lot of people probably know, but maybe something huge is going to happen we're just not expecting because,
things are always happening. I mean, like we were saying the other day, bro, when we were on the phone, I was telling you that Brian Cashman, he had said that he was talking to a bunch of teams. Like GMs are rocking and rolling. It's they're just not saying anything. Like teams are getting busy, and sometimes things take days, weeks to finalize to get something fixed or figured out. So I think GMs are working right now. I think a lot of GMs are just grinding it out, seeing what's available, who's available, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. So it's all I call it the touch and go stage. It's you call a team to see what who's available because you have a need, and if not, you kind of move on and you just kind of go down the line from there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's that's definitely obvious. It's definitely obviously what goes on. I think their phones are ringing nonstop 2-3 in the morning, and that's where maybe you get woken up in the middle of the night to a GM that maybe just popped with a trade idea that he wants to float by you, especially at the winter meetings. That's I don't know if these guys actually sleep. To be honest, I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. I would be just all over the place, bouncing off the walls, banging on guys' doors, like, hey, well, let's get a deal done. I want this player of yours, and who do you want from me? But listen, that would be a dream to experience something like that. On the other end, though, Brew threw the question as far as what this meant for the Mets' future is what they're going to do trade wise, who becomes expendable. So Texas obviously has come out and said that they want to shed payroll. To me personally, I don't think they shed a lot of payroll at all. So with that being said, do they continue going down that route? Do they continue to shed more? And I'm going to throw the question to you guys. If that's the case, and if they're going to continue to shed payroll, who else is on the chopping block?
Should not be Seager. Whatever it is, don't trade Seager. You trade Seager away from that offense. I know he's sometimes not healthy. I get it. But when this guy's healthy in that offense, and you've only gotten the glimpse, and this is just the baseball fanatic of me, you've only gotten the glimpse of him and Langford fully healthy together and what that could possibly be. Nimmo's there now. Don't trade Seager. Whatever y'all do. If y'all want to maybe a pitcher, like maybe you guys want to do something like that, by all means. Their pitching was actually very good this year. Do that. Do not trade Seager. I know there was some dumb rumors that were coming out. Seager to the Yankees. I wonder who came up with that dumb stuff. I mean, I'm not even going to say it, but you get, come on. I mean, it's we have one beat writer trying to make a name for himself, putting out horrible rumors like that, coming out of nowhere. Seager to the Yankees. Like, come on, bro. I mean, JB, what do you think? Who would Texas, be willing to more so give up if they still want to cut payroll?
I'm not even too sure. They just took on $103 million of Brandon Nimmo's contract. So it's like, are you cutting or what? Because I think Semien had $77 million dollars left on his deal. So, do the math. I'm not really too sure if they're shedding payroll, but
they're shedding payroll through a year.
I know
Nimmo's got a little more length.
That's it. That's literally it. But honestly, I really don't like you said. If you're not competing and you're going to trade Seager, that just tells your fan base that you're not really into it for 2025. 2026. So I think they have to keep Seager if they're going to be competitive in the AL West. I mean, it doesn't make much sense. I think they need to bolster up that starting pitching and maybe figure out how to keep a guy like maybe Merrill Kelly, get him back, strengthen up that rotation. And you know what? as a Yankee fan, I don't want Corey Seager. I know that's maybe like goes against the grain, but he's missed 60 games the last 2 seasons twice. I don't know if I want him right now. He's a little injury prone. That hamstring is a problem. Listen, he's a very talented player, and listen, I would take him over Anthony Volpe. Obviously, I just think I don't know. I don't right now. Right now, it's I don't know what we'd have to give up for a guy like him. I really don't, and I don't know. To me, the upside there is not the best. $31 million a year. I don't know. I would take my chances with fixing the outfield before I indulged in Corey Seager. That's just my opinion.
Be
I mean,
honest.
listen, they
Go
could
ahead, go
also
ahead.
maybe move. They could also maybe move on from Jacob deGrom. Maybe trade him for almost major league ready talent pitcher wise. That could be a possibility. He's getting up there in age. He's had his issues with injuries as well. There's a team willing to take on that deal, or at least maybe half of it. I mean, who knows? But I don't think Texas is done either. I don't know where they're going to go as far as shedding payroll. I think Seager's contract is going to be a little too hard to move.
Yeah.
Rom is someone in that realm. Maybe Evaldi, but he was your best guy. He was arguably the best guy last year until he went down. So I don't know. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, it will be. I mean,
it's definitely going to be tough.
like this team was still like in the mix of contending for a wild card spot, and they did suffer injuries. I mean, Seager had appendicitis, I believe. Semien had the foot injury. Evaldi was out at some point. He was pitching great, and then he got out. The main guy, Langford had the oblique injury. Like they were so banged up offensively too. I think Leiter, obviously, he was pitching good to an extent, and then he went out with the blister. I think the only one that stayed healthy in that rotation was Jacob deGrom, funny enough. And it just provides deGrom's still doing his thing. So shout out deGrom.
And listen, I would listen. 5 years ago, I wanted Corey Seager. I really did. I thought he was the answer. I would have loved to sign him to a 10-year deal when he signed it. But these last 2 or 3 years, he missed 60 games last year. I think it was 43 this year. So, we're talking 103 games the last 2 years, and that hammy has been a problem. I'm telling you, his left hamstring has been a massive issue, and that's why his production was down last year. I think he had 20 home runs. I think he had 50 RBIs. He was kind of a shell of himself. This guy is 30 and 100 every year. Listen, obviously it would be an upgrade, but I just don't know if I want to give up all that talent. I know Texas is going to want a haul for a guy like Seager, and if Seager's only going to play 110 games for me, I don't know. The upside doesn't look as good as it may sound.
Yeah, like I said, I think moving his deal is definitely going to be tough for them if that's what they're going to try to do. I don't know. I don't even know who would be in play for him to be at this point and who'd be willing to take on that money. So
For real.
His contract's going to be tough.
I don't see that. I mean, like we said, for the Mets, yes, there's still expandable pieces. For the Rangers, I don't know who else would be expendable. Maybe a guy like what's his name? Their third baseman.
I think they should. Josh Jung.
Yeah, Young. Maybe a guy like him.
I think they have to keep a guy like Seager just because they need a cornerstone to say that this is what their franchise is based on, and then build around that. I think that it's just somebody they're gonna have to keep around whether they like it or not.
Yeah, like I for sure see them being in the market for a guy like. I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll check on Pete Alonso. They won't spend it, but maybe a guy like Ryan O'Hearn or somebody like that.
I like O'Hearn. That's a pretty good move.
Go get a guy like that. But then again, you don't want to be too lefty heavy. I mean, I get it, but no, that would be actually a really good addition. I like O'Hearn with the Rangers. I would like that. And for the Mets, obviously Bellinger. I think that's the number one. Like if I had to pin it, I think Bellinger would make so much sense for the Mets. To be honest with you, shout out Keith McPherson.
No, it does because it's going to be $200 million less. So, I think it's financially a good move, and not for nothing, he puts up very good offensive numbers, Cody Bellinger, when he's right. So he can put up very comparable numbers to a guy like Tucker. But just Tucker's big thing is that he can steal 35 to 40 bases, and put up the same elite defense. So it's going to be interesting. to see what New York team maybe lands Cody Bellinger, because I know both New York teams are going to be looking for his services.
Yeah, I think this completely opened the door for the Mets. I mean, they've already been linked to him a little bit. There's been rumors that they're eyeing him to bring him in, over to Queens.
And
And
now I think that 6 for 180. I think
you think so?
I think it's going to be at 200 now. Because
I
think
don't
about
know.
it. Now the Mets have set themselves up where they need a spot, and if they want to outbid the Yankees for another outfielder just to stick it to them, maybe Steve goes, "Hey, here's 7 years for 200. We'll give you the extra year because we want to make you feel nice and fuzzy inside, and here's 200 mil. It's 30 mil a year if you break it down, and maybe that'll work. Maybe they get them in years. We'll see what happens."
Listen, I do like Bellinger's talent. He just scares me a little bit lengthwise because he does have those moments where he just kind of looks like he almost doesn't know how to play baseball. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He has those moments, and that length scares me just a little bit. But when, like you said, when he's right, when he's on, I mean, his defense is always his defense, but his offense does. His offense could be amazing, when he's on. So
yeah, and that's what he was last year for the Yankees. Was a huge catalyst in why the Yankees were, successful. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think if he plays like that, he could be a real asset to some team.
I'll throw this question out to Mike. Two, actually. I'll throw the first one, which is I saw somebody tweeted it. I think it was Buster only from ESPN. He tweeted saying, with Nimmo now being out of the picture, I think, Lindor maybe this upcoming year probably he's going to get the captain on him. Nah? You think it's time or nah?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was actually going to get it. We spoke about this in the past, but I thought when David Wright came down, when they retired his number and everything, I thought that was going to be kind of the passing of the torch. But listen, I had no issue with it. The fact that it was all about David Wright that day, and it might have taken a little away from him, maybe doing that. But I thought that was a very David Wright thing to do. That was my expectation. It did not happen. So I mean, yeah, because there's been rumblings that Nimmo was unhappy with hearing that Lindor might be considered captain of this team. I mean, Nimmo's a lifelong Met, grew up throughout this organization. And honestly, let's say they went with Nimmo or Lindor, I don't think you could really go wrong. For the simple fact that, like I said earlier, Brandon Nimmo is the type of player you don't come across that often. He's not giving you, all right, 40 and a $140. That's fine. But everything else extra that he does, potentially in the clubhouse, in the dugout, how he plays the game, that's the X factor to him that I think makes him so special as a player. So, yeah, I mean, if they would have named him captain, I wouldn't have been completely like, wow, really? I thought that would have been a good, solid move. But if that upset him, and I mean, listen, rightfully so. Now, yeah, I think that absolutely could be a thing.
I'll throw the second question because this is a very one that they've always talked very highly about each other. Soto talks very highly about Tatis. Tatis talks very highly about Soto. If you could get an opportunity to pair these two together, I think that would be a dream. Obviously, the DR faction going on there. I know Marte's a free agent, but I feel like that would dead ass be something like special right there. Tatis, Soto in one team. Would you be willing to, entertain that? I mean, obviously Tatis has his history. I mean, people that don't know how you feel about PDs and everything like that. We'll get into that maybe in another episode. But would you feel, or would you want more so that to be something that can occur?
For the right price. I mean, Tatis brings an X factor to the game that maybe not so much a Brandon Nimmo type, but Tatis lives for that moment. He elevates in those moments. He hits in the playoffs. He's had some huge moments in the playoffs, in games leading into the playoffs to maybe catapult San Diego into those situations. He lives for the big moment. He really does. He lives for the flair, the dramatic. He is a very talented baseball player. I'm not crazy about the whole PED thing from a few years ago. I'm not. I'm very against that type of stuff. So essentially being a Met fan, having to now essentially, if the Mets were to make that trade, now root for a guy like that. I mean, listen, it is what it is. I would hope that part of his career and that is in the past, and he doesn't have that issue. But to me, I'd be a little nervous going forward that what if this does pop up again, because it's happened before.
Yeah.
Guys, just because they've been suspended the first time doesn't mean that it doesn't creep up and happen again. Look at Manny Ramirez, for example, toward the end of his career. There's been a couple of guys. So that would be a little nerve-wracking for me. That would always be in the back of my mind. But to have that tandem of Soto and Tatis, that would be incredible. It really would. Talent-wise.
Yeah. I remember the interview that Soto did. I believe it was before the start of this year, and he was talking about like somebody had asked him. I think the interviewer asked him, "Who is your favorite, or who do you think is the best player all around Major League Baseball?" And Soto straight up said, "I think it's Tatis. I think he's complete defensively. He's a Platinum Glove winner. He just won the Platinum Glove this year. Offensively, if he's hot, what he could do." And he basically gave Tatis the nod. Tatis obviously thinks very highly about him. I think they're about to play in the WBC together, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be such a dream thing to bring to Queens, in my opinion, just looking at it from an outside perspective. If you have those two sharing the outfield, man, quit playing.
Jay, what would you think about that, about Tatis with the Mets?
That would be pretty scary. That would be a nice 1-2 punch, and he's young. Tatis, you get some nice team control there for a while. Basically solidify your corner outfield spots for the next 15 years. So it'd be really interesting. I don't personally know if the Padres would trade him to a National League team unless they got blown away with a package that made sense. I really do think that comes into play. I could see him maybe going to the American League just to get him out of the National League completely, and maybe a team in the American League overpays to make that happen. That's just what I see happening. But if he landed in Queens, that would definitely be a formidable outfield.
I know there's going to be people that's saying, "Oh, Tatis isn't even available. Tatis this and that, this and that." If you look at the direction that the Padres are going as an organization, obviously since the late owner passed away, now they're thinking about.
I think 30% of that roster is available.
Now they're thinking about selling the team. I mean, it's completely gone downhill, and it's actually really sad to see. If you do a deep dive on it, it's pretty sad to see what's going on. The family fighting in between. It's very unfortunate. I'll say this, though. If he is available, the Mets could put up a great package for him that I don't think it would matter if it's an AL or NL. I think if the Mets add certain guys that the Padres really like, and the Padres, when it comes to the trades, Preller gets unpredictable. Like, I mean, we saw with the Mason Miller one out of nowhere, all those prospects.
Would you give up Sproat and Tong, guys? Would you be cool with that? It's gonna take Sproat and Tong.
More than likely, I would say it depends on how much of the contract the Mets are going to take on. Are they taking on everything? Are they taking on what portion?
They're taking on at least 70% of it. At least the Padres are in some financial disarray. They're going to need the Mets to really offer them that financial stability, in that deal.
This is where the Mets could use that to their advantage. The fact that Cohen does have deep pockets. And he could turn around and say, "Well, what's more important to you, your package in return or getting out of this money?" That could be a huge part of his negotiation tactic. So he could flat out
San Francisco Giant thing, what they did with the Red Sox, and just completely take on the whole Rafael Devers type deal.
Yeah,
do something like that where they just eat the money and
that could potentially be in play. That could potentially be in play. I mean, listen, time will tell with that. I mean, I'm not in that negotiation room. I don't know if they've even talked to each other. I mean, that would be insane. But the Mets do have that leverage. They could obviously ask that question because who knows how long it's going to take for the sale to happen. And on the other hand, I kind of think your point, which I do agree with on a regular basis about them not trading within a National League team that, especially within the division, especially a guy like Tatis, that's no go. That's not going to happen. As far as the National League team, I think the offer is going to be a little more pricey to get that done. But with the X factor of the fact that, the family's looking to sell the team, they might not care because you know what? This isn't going to be our problem. We just want to get out of the money and deal with it and maybe bring in some revenue as much as we can and make it a little more appealing to the next person that's going to buy where, they do have a little more financial flexibility and aren't maybe strapped with the luxury tax. So if they're looking to just get out of money, I think that's part of the X factor here where it may not matter as far as a National League team goes.
Yeah. I mean,
if they get a willing bidder, I think that's where it could change.
It's obviously a question I threw out because, like I said, those two think very highly of each other. It would be a dream to watch those guys. I mean, we're going to watch them in the WBC playing with each other. if that would happen somehow, some way in the MLB in Queens, that would be, I mean, obviously like must watch television, bro. It really would, because you still have Lindor on that team. Man, yeah,
That would
that
be
would be
insane.
something. That would be insane. That would be insane. What would you guys think about that? Let us know in the comments right now. As always, I just want to say I appreciate the countless support. You guys have been doing absolutely amazing with the numbers on this channel. I mean, Jay, Mike, we appreciate it all tremendously.
Absolutely.
And just keep it up. Make sure to like this video, subscribe as well. And obviously, I'll leave it to the guys as we close it out right here.
No, listen, like everybody said, you know, the continued support is always appreciated. We love doing this, all three of us. It's something that we really love doing, and without your support, it wouldn't be anything that what it is. So you guys, the fans and the listeners, have a lot to do with this and the success of this. In the last 6 weeks, it's really been a great thing. So we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I think Ben and Jay said it best. I always say something along those lines with you guys. You guys make this a lot easier to do, because if we were just talking to nobody, then we might as well just hang out on the phone or whatever it is. The fact that we see the viewership, the fact that we see the likes, the fact that we see the subscriptions go up almost on a regular basis is phenomenal. It motivates us to keep going, because the stuff that for a person that maybe just watches and never done anything like this before, it does get strenuous. It does get, very like, are we putting out good stuff? Are we? Yeah, we have to be, right? And then when we see the return, it's very validating. So we do appreciate that from you guys. And listen, keep pumping the likes, keep pumping the views, keep sending this to everybody, your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your best friend, your ex-girlfriend. I don't care. Send it to everybody if you like what we do. Like always, we really do appreciate you hanging out, and have a great night, guys.